There's just no evidence for God, man. This whole "I don't understand it, so God must have done it" is your typical God of the gaps hogwash.
No evidence, or do you just reject any argument for God given to you because you subjectively decide that you don't want to be convinced by it?
Bro, if it was convincing evidence, I'd believe in your God. But the evidence you have is crap.
Okay, so you tell me, what would God have to do to demonstrate that he is real?
Well, I don't know. I'm not sure what kind of evidence would convince me. But God would know, and he'd give it to me if he really wanted me to believe in him.
You can't think of anything?
Well,
Like, what if God pulled you out of this universe, Charles Dickens style, and somehow showed you behind the curtain of everything he's created? Would something like that convince you?
well, for all I know, that could be some kind of alien life force that pulled me out of my existence to do that. And I'd be right back where I started.
So what you're saying is, even though you are shown something that can't be explained by nature, there could always be another explanation for something.
Yeah, I think you got that right.
So God can't prove himself to you because no matter what he does, for you, something else is always possible.
Well, God can do anything. He should be able to provide me evidence that will convince me.
But do you see what you're doing there? To be convinced of something, there needs to be a point where you say, yes, I'm convinced. And you've removed any possibility to be convinced. Because it's not dependent on the evidence. It's dependent on when you decide it's convincing enough. That's not God's issue. That's a will issue.
Huh?
This extreme skepticism has removed your ability to be reasonable. Because based on your demands, we can't prove anything really. I can't prove my pharmacist isn't going to poison me the next time I go for a prescription.
Doctors have these things called track records?
Oh, you mean evidence that I could also be hyper-skeptical about? Like I could say the doctor's credentials could be forged, and he's the next catch me if you can story waiting to happen.
But that's not realistic.
So being reasonable does matter.
Well, yeah. Okay, sure. Let's say there could be evidence that would convince me. It would just have to be really, really good evidence.
Something that has no naturalistic explanation?
Sure.
Okay, that's good. But your problem is, you've now stepped into God of the gaps.
Huh?
You have no naturalistic explanation for something, and that's when you can start to say God did it. Yet I'm over here saying the same thing with things that neither you or I have naturalistic explanations for, and you're calling it God of the gaps. Why can you suddenly come to the conclusion of God and I can't?
I think I need to think on this for a while.
Please do.